Every bridge held together by steel rebar is already rusting from the inside, and nothing can stop it. Not because engineers are careless, not because the concrete is bad. Steel and moisture cannot share 100 years without a fight, and that fight is quietly bankrupting infrastructure budgets worldwide. Right now, in factories most people have never heard of, a different rock is replacing the metal everyone assumed was permanent. Steel rebar corrosion sounds like a maintenance footnote. It is not. When chloride from de-icing salt or seawater works its way through concrete and reaches the steel inside, the metal begins to rust. Rust takes up more volume than the steel it replaces, so as it expands inside the concrete, it pushes outward, cracking and splitting the surrounding material from the inside out, long before any damage is visible on the surface. The Federal Highway Administration puts the direct annual cost of this process, just for highway bridges in the United States, at roughly $8 billion a year. Factor in traffic delays, lost productivity, and detours, and independent estimates put the real cost at more than 10 times that figure. Corrosion overall, across every industry, is estimated to cost the American economy over $270 billion a year, and reinforced concrete infrastructure is one of its biggest single-line items. This is not a fringe problem hitting a handful of unlucky structures. Over half of the bridges in America are reinforced concrete, and corrosion of the embedded steel is the single most common reason they fail before their design life is up. For more than a century, the construction industry has simply accepted this as the price of building with steel, because nobody had a real alternative. That is no longer true. The alternative comes from an unlikely place: volcanic rock. Basalt is one of the most common rocks on the planet, and it turns out that when you melt it down and draw it into thread-thin fibers, the same way glass fiber is made, you get something remarkable. Basalt fiber reinforced polymer, or BFRP, is manufactured through a process called pultrusion. Continuous strands of basalt fiber are pulled through a resin bath, usually vinyl ester or epoxy, and cured into straight, ribbed bars that look almost exactly like the steel rebar they are meant to replace. The fiber itself sits in strength somewhere between fiberglass and carbon fiber, offering tensile properties higher than standard glass fiber without the extra cost of carbon fiber. And because the reinforcement is stone, not metal, water and chloride simply have nothing to attack. There is no rust reaction to trigger, because there is no iron inside it to oxidize in the first place. Here are the numbers that actually matter to an engineer. Independent testing on commercial basalt rebar puts its guaranteed tensile strength at around 145,000 pounds per square inch, with average results closer to 164,000. Compare that to ordinary grade 40 steel rebar at 70,000, or grade 60 at 90,000. And basalt is not just competitive, it is roughly double the strength of the steel most buildings actually use. It manages that while weighing about a quarter to a third what steel weighs for the same size bar, which means lighter trucks, easier handling on site without mechanical lifting equipment, and less dead load on the finished structure. Density runs around 2 to 2.7 grams per cubic centimeter, against 7.85 for steel. Separate research on basalt fiber itself, rather than the finished bar, measured tensile strength as high as 4,800 megapascals in some samples, which is why manufacturers describe it as sitting between glass and carbon fiber, rather than anywhere near ordinary construction materials. For any structure where corrosion, not raw compressive load, is what eventually kills the concrete, that combination is close to ideal. The bond between the bar and the surrounding concrete matters just as much as the bar's own strength, and here basalt has quietly outperformed expectations too. Studies on sand-coated, helically wrapped basalt bars found a bond coefficient of 0.8, meaning the bar grips the surrounding concrete more efficiently than the conservative value of 1.4 that codes still assume for ordinary fiber-reinforced bars. In plain terms, engineers currently have to over-design around a safety assumption that the material itself has already outgrown, which is the kind of quiet, unglamorous overperformance that never makes headlines, but matters enormously to anyone actually pouring the concrete. But here is the catch, and it is a real one, not a footnote to bury. Basalt rebar has a modulus of elasticity of roughly 6.7 million pounds per square inch, compared to 29 million for steel. That is more than 4 times lower, and it means the bar stretches noticeably more under the same load. In practice, an engineer designing with basalt often has to size the beam for stiffness and deflection limits rather than raw tensile strength, which can mean thicker sections or a higher reinforcement ratio than an equivalent steel design would need. And unlike steel, you cannot bend basalt rebar on site with a simple hand tool. Any curved or hooked bar has to be shaped at the factory before it ever reaches the job, which adds a planning step contractors are not used to. For years, that combination of unfamiliar math and factory-only bending was enough to keep basalt rebar filed away as interesting but impractical, sitting next to a dozen other materials engineers had heard of but never actually specified. There is a second, quieter caveat that researchers are still working through. Basalt fiber's resin coating can degrade over time inside the highly alkaline environment of fresh concrete, where the pH sits above 13. Laboratory studies simulating decades of exposure found that tensile strength retention can drop as low as 25% after 90 days of accelerated aging in that high pH range. But the same studies found retention jumps to nearly 72% once the surrounding concrete carbonates and its pH drops closer to 11, which is what happens naturally over the first years of almost every structure's life as it cures and ages in open air. This is exactly the kind of unglamorous, unresolved detail that never makes it into a sales brochure, and exactly the kind of detail that decides whether a material survives 50 years or fails in 20. None of this is brand new science dressed up as a breakthrough. Fiber-reinforced polymer rebar as a category is roughly 30 years old, and the industry built its early reputation on air-emitting carbon fiber bars before shifting most of its attention to ordinary glass fiber, mainly because glass offered the best balance of price against the other two. Basalt fiber came later as a natural upgrade sitting between glass and carbon in performance, without carbon's price tag. That slow, unglamorous evolution matters, because it means basalt rebar is not an unproven experiment riding on a single flashy claim. It is the newest chapter in a reinforcement category that engineers have already been testing, refining, and gradually trusting for 3 decades. What changed is not the material itself, it is the paperwork around it, and paperwork is what actually controls what gets built. For nearly 3 decades, fiber-reinforced rebar existed in a kind of regulatory limbo, tested at universities and used on scattered projects, but without a dedicated national standard that treated basalt the same way building codes treat steel. In 2023, the American Society for Testing in Materials published ASTM D8505, the first specification written specifically to cover basalt and glass fiber rebar side by side with steel grades. Industry insiders describe how the original plan was to fold basalt into the existing glass fiber specification, the same way steel grades 40, 60, and 80 sit inside one document, but overlapping work with a separate committee developing the American Concrete Institute's newest design guide meant the two efforts had to be kept apart, to avoid creating confusion for engineers already working from the older rules. The American Concrete Institute's 440 series of codes now spells out exactly how a structural engineer is allowed to design with basalt rebar, referencing test methods like ASTM D7205 for tensile properties. That may sound bureaucratic, but it is the single biggest reason basalt rebar sat on the sidelines for 2 decades. An engineer cannot legally specify a material a building code does not recognize, no matter how good the lab results look. Now it can be specified, inspected, and signed off on, which turns basalt rebar from a laboratory curiosity into something a licensed engineer can actually put their name behind. That shift in the rulebook has already reshaped where the material gets used in the real world. Basalt rebar is written directly into the national construction codes of Russia, Ukraine, and China, where it shows up routinely in highways, bridges, water treatment plants, and marine structures. In the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Italy, and Poland, industry figures describe it as still mostly confined to applications where certification is not required. Things like swimming pools and garden paths, while formal certification efforts work their way slowly through the pipeline in each country. That gap has nothing to do with the material performing better in one place than another. It comes down entirely to which regulatory system moved first, and to a construction culture built around liability and insurance that is naturally reluctant to sign off on decades-long performance claims for any material without decades of field data to back them up. Even when the lab data already looks strong, that caution is starting to crack, at least in North America. Market researchers tracking the sector put the North American share of the basalt rebar market at around $77 million in 2024, roughly a quarter of the global total, with adoption concentrated almost entirely in coastal and marine projects, exactly the seawalls, docks, and bridge decks where saltwater corrosion is most aggressive and most expensive to repair. Estimates for the broader basalt fiber rebar market put global demand growing at a compound rate in the low double digits through the early 2030s, driven largely by aging infrastructure that needs replacing anyway, and by state and federal building codes that are slowly starting to reward corrosion-resistant materials rather than simply requiring the cheapest one. None of that adds up to a revolution overnight, but it is a market moving in one direction, and that direction is away from steel in exactly the environments where steel struggles most. China's research institutes and construction firms have pushed the furthest with basalt fiber reinforced polymer and bridge components, specifically because it never rusts, which makes it the obvious choice for bridges sitting in salt spray or acidic soil. Exactly the environments where steel rebar fails fastest and most expensively. Some of that engineering work goes further than simply swapping one bar for another inside an otherwise ordinary beam. Researchers have built composite bridge sections where a full grid of fiber-reinforced polymer takes the place of the solid steel web inside the beam itself, cutting the beam's own weight substantially while keeping its resistance to shear forces intact. Lighter beams mean smaller cranes, cheaper transport to remote sites, and faster assembly on location, which is a very different kind of advantage from winning a price war on raw tonnage of finished steel. Separate testing on pre-stressed basalt fiber beams found they could carry roughly 20% more load before failure than non-pre-stressed versions, and could sustain about 5 times the load before the first visible crack ever appeared, which is exactly the kind of long service life performance coastal and marine infrastructure is desperate for. Bridges are the headline application, but they are not the only one. The same corrosion resistance that makes basalt rebar attractive for seawalls and coastal decks also makes it useful in wind turbine foundations, which sit exposed to weather for decades with almost no chance of inspection or repair once installed, and in wastewater treatment plants and chemical facilities, where the concrete itself is under constant chemical attack from the inside as well as the outside. Tunnel linings and underground engineering projects use it for a more specific reason. Basalt rebar is non-conductive and non-magnetic, which matters enormously in any structure built near sensitive electrical equipment or where steel's magnetic interference would otherwise be a problem. None of these are billion-dollar headline projects. They are the unglamorous backbone of everyday infrastructure, which is exactly why a material fixing them quietly does not make the evening news. None of this makes basalt rebar a universal replacement, and it is worth being honest about where it stops. It cannot be used in columns or other elements that rely mainly on compressive strength, because fiber-reinforced bars, basalt included, are simply weaker in compression than steel is. And in countries where certification still lags, engineers face a slower, more cautious approval path, no matter how strong the underlying material actually tests out to be. What has shifted the underlying economics is price. Manufacturers now say basalt rebar can be bought at close to the same cost per bar as ordinary steel rebar, while offering physical properties that beat steel in the one place it consistently fails over time: corrosion. If that price claim holds up at real construction scale rather than just in supplier marketing, basalt rebar stops being a premium material reserved for niche coastal projects and starts being a straightforward substitution anywhere salt, moisture, or acidic soil are already quietly destroying steel-reinforced concrete. It is worth being skeptical of any manufacturer's pricing claim on its own, since a supplier's website is not an independent source. What makes the claim worth taking seriously is that it is no longer being made in isolation. It now sits alongside a recognized ASTM specification, a matching set of ACI design codes, and a market that independent researchers track, growing at double-digit rates rather than a single company's press release. That combination of code recognition and third-party market tracking is a meaningfully different situation than a novel material claiming to beat steel with no paper trail behind it. Part of why so few people have heard any of this is simple. Steel dominates every headline about materials and geopolitics, from advanced high-strength alloys to trade tariffs to who controls which mine. A quiet fiberglass-style bar used mostly in bridge decks and seawalls does not generate the same kind of coverage, even when it is solving a more expensive, more universal problem than any of those stories. Corrosion does not care about trade policy or national pride. It attacks every reinforced concrete structure on Earth, in every country, regardless of who built it, and a fix for that problem is arguably more consequential to the average person's daily infrastructure than almost any of the louder material stories getting all the attention. Step back, and the real story here is not one country racing to dominate one more headline material. It is a 100-year-old assumption quietly breaking apart. Reinforced concrete was built on the idea that steel and concrete simply belong together, rust and all, and that the resulting repair bill was just the unavoidable cost of building anything meant to last. Basalt rebar does not ask governments for billion-dollar subsidies, does not require new factories costing hundreds of millions of dollars to retool, and does not depend on any single country's mining supply chain the way advanced steel alloys increasingly do. It asks for something far smaller and far less dramatic, a building code willing to catch up with what the lab results have already shown for 2 decades. Where that catching up has happened, in Russia, Ukraine, and China, the material is already holding up bridges. Where it has not, across much of the West, it is still sitting quietly in garden paths and swimming pools, waiting its turn. The next bridge that never rusts might be made of melted rock, not steel. Subscribe for more.